Totally mental old-school Chinese horror movies. Since the 1980s, Hong Kong cinema has been thriving in international platforms. Through such genres as martial arts, wuxia, and crime, viewers have been exposed to a plethora of exciting movies. In the 1990s, though, a lesser-known category of horror films emerged underground, mostly among cult and Category 3 fans. Category 3 being a classification by the Hong Kong Censorship Board that prohibited anyone under 18 from viewing them. Over time, these have found their place within an array of international cinema. This video will bring you a bunch of insanely brilliant Chinese horror flicks that are sure to make you jump. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Magic Cop, 1990. Uncle Fang, an experienced Taoist cop, lives a peaceful life in Tungping Chao. One day, his neighbor, an old woman, requests him to travel to Hong Kong to return her daughter's body, her daughter being a stewardess who the police killed. Soon Fang discovers that her daughter has been reanimated into a living corpse by a magician who makes her smuggle drugs. Fang uses his detective knowledge to find the magician and stop his evil deeds. Magic Cop, directed by Stephen Tung Wai, is the fifth movie in the Mr. Vampire horror franchise. It contains themes of spooky sorcery, Taoist lore, and antics used for ghost busting within its plot. Renowned child actor turned choreographer and now director Stephen Tung Wai created this movie after Ricky Lau made the first four in the franchise. Magic Cop holds the reputation for having the best SFX amongst all its predecessors. Viewers are also treated to an incredible array of visuals that are accompanied by a decent mystery plot. Magic Cop is yet another addition to this pantheon of classic action flicks that everyone loves. The Cat, 1992. A young girl joins forces with an old man and a cat to battle a giant murderous monster who could possess people. Police Inspector Wisely also assists them in preventing the theft of an octagon artifact from the museum. The group soon discovers that the artifact's thieves are aliens stranded on Earth who need it to return to their planet. The giant monster is also in search of the relic and they must stop it. This film, directed by Lam Kai, is adapted from the novel Old Cat by Ni Kuang. It's a not-so-typical cop vs. alien spat inspired by the movie The Hidden made in 1987. Like most other Hong Kong horror films, The Cat doesn't care much for coherence in its plot, but this does not mean that it isn't a thrilling watch. Indeed, The Cat is worth seeing due to the imaginative directorial style and creative camera techniques that it uses. It contains heavy artillery displayed via delightful slow-motion shots of guns blowing stuff up. The real threat for viewers is the action-packed fight sequence between a dog and a cat possessed by an alien. The battle is filmed very bizarrely, primarily serving as a parody, along with the same style as a Chinese ghost story in 1987. The special effects that created the creature are highly entertaining, making the film downright bizarre with an unlikely blend of dark humor. Human Lanterns, 1982. Two rival kung fu masters Lung and Tan are pitted against each other by a psychotic craftsman due to an old feud. While the two men are at it, a series of disturbing murders begins occurring around their village for which they blame each other. Soon they discover who is really committing them, and the unconventional methods by which the craftsman makes his lanterns. Sun Chung's Human Lanterns moves at a graceful pace while keeping viewers intrigued. It presents a touching story of how two enemies turn into friends. One of its most thrilling aspects is that it portrays a tasteful blend of horror and kung fu. Choreographer Chia's work stands out and displays impressive action sequences, including the killer's martial arts skills. Moreover, the film begins unraveling with grotesque elements brought to the screen by top-notch special effects. Overall, Sun Chung successfully maintains both horror and kung fu elements equally in this film without one overpowering the other and losing its essence. This makes Human Lanterns a delightful movie in the director's unique style. Curse of Evil, 1982. 13 members of a family are all murdered and disposed of into a well. 2 decades after the incident, the family's descendants appear to have a curse on them. Curse of Evil, directed by Kwei Chi-hung, presents a messy family dynamic accompanied by overly gooey special effects. Although the film is slightly difficult to digest after the first watch, the story is intriguing and there are multiple characters, all with several layers and traits. What this movie does differently is that it doesn't follow Chi-hung's conventional visual style. However, that comes as no surprise because the original director was Wang Feng of Wang Fei Hung Films. Curse of Evil is filled with blood and gore as an army of frogs with steel teeth and a gigantic worm the size of a man wreak havoc, tearing out people's flesh. Despite the minor shortcomings that viewers might have, these outlandish creatures are enough to keep any viewer at the edge of their seats. For those who have already watched the film, it may make you want to rewatch it.
好，我先拆了你的盘。说话，你不说话是吧？我看你说不说。
The Boxer's Omen, 1983. A boxer from Hong Kong gets caught up in Buddhism and black magic when he is in Thailand. There, he begins seeing apparitions of a Buddhist monk, later revealed to be his lost twin brother. This brother is currently trapped in a state between life and death due to dark magic performed by a wizard. The protagonist boxer then deems it his duty to become a monk and defeat the dark wizard so that he could break the spell. In The Boxer's Omen, director Kwei Chi-hung wastes no time bringing the element of black magic. As the primary focus of the film's horror, it is an extremely detailed rendition of the extravagant tricks that sorcery can achieve, from turning people into bats to hypnotically controlling animal skeletons. Besides that, there are other intriguing aspects to it, such as the action scenes that involve martial arts. And though they are brutal, they are also enjoyable and present viewers with an edge-of-the-seat thrill. Overall, The Boxer's Omen is deemed to be one of the finest within its genre. While it is visibly a low-budget production, it presents excellent entertainment value and imagery that perfectly conveys the fear that it intends. Dr. Lamb, 1992. Every night that it rains, a peculiar taxi driver has an unusual bloodlust, due to which several women end up dead. Lam Goryu, the murderer, takes photographs of his victims and keeps parts of their bodies as trophies. Soon, Inspector Lee is brought on to solve this bizarre case. Danny Lee and Billy Tang's Dr. Lam is based on a real-life crime in Hong Kong in 1982 by the killer Lam Kor Wan. It is a classic that served as the influential trailblazer for several rip-offs that would come out after. It's an intense film containing gratuitous nudity, graphic scenes of murder, mutilation, and more necrophilia than one can stomach. Needless to say, it is not for the faint-hearted. The film was initially titled Lamb, but later changed to Dr. Lamb so that viewers can infer its cannibalistic element. This shouldn't be a surprise since it has been made by 2 directors known for incorporating extreme gore into their works. No matter how vivid its scenes are, Dr. Lamb is an incredible movie that showcases taut direction, morbid fascination, and a lingering impact that stays with the audience long after it is over. Initially, Dr. Lamb and The Untold Story were written by the same screenwriter, Law Kem Phai. It has identical shocking elements brought out through the main character's action and the brutal tactics that the police resort to while interrogating them. Seeding of a Ghost, 1983. A taxi driver in Hong Kong accidentally hits a sorcerer with his car and as a result is cursed by him. After this, his wife gets raped and murdered by a gang of teenage degenerates. He goes to the sorcerer and begs him to lift the curse off him and bring his wife back from the dead. The sorcerer obliges, causing chaos to ensue as the undead arrive in the world of the living. Chuan Yang's Seeding of a Ghost is a multifaceted horror film containing everything from necrophilia to unique Hong Kong spells. This film heavily borrows its magic element from ancient Taoist traditions. It is also a rare Chinese B-movie that contains extreme violence without martial arts in action. Moreover, viewers rarely see Hong Kong films incorporating cheesy practical effects and monsters in rubbery costumes. Chuan Yang adds all these elements to his movie in a trashy 80s way. Seeding of a Ghost proves that Hong Kong filmmakers really know how to present dark horror content that has the potential to become a cult favorite. Despite the low-budget practical effects of the undead, the movie does contain decent SFX with slimy worms and smoky shadows. Overall, it is evident that loads of imagination and detail have been added to make this thrilling masterpiece. Troublesome Night, 1997. Four stories loosely connected to each other present themselves in the streets of Hong Kong. In the first, a man named Ken is haunted by the supernatural after passing near a grave. In the second, Mrs. To prepares to celebrate her wedding anniversary with her husband, only for him to disappear. In the third, a girl named Jojo becomes romantically involved with a ghost. And in the fourth, a guy called Peter visits a haunted theater. Troublesome Night, directed by Steve Chang, Victor Tam, and Herman Yao, is the first of 19 movies created between 1997 and 2003 with similar themes and structures. It is an anthology that portrays complex relationships between human beings and the supernatural. Each story varies, containing elements from campy humor to extreme horror. Moreover, they also showcase each one's central gripping aspect without taking themselves too seriously. The film's crossing narratives is an intriguing feature, having different characters unexpectedly reappear in each subsection. The filmmakers cleverly use practical framing devices to make each tale several times more interesting than they would be as standalone stories. Despite being gory, watching the entire movie provides audiences with a satisfying feeling. Overall, besides being a must-watch by itself, Troublesome Night remarkably paves the way for a plethora of intriguing films over the next 6 years. The Eternal Evil of Asia, 1995. A group of friends take a hedonistic trip to Thailand. However, during this vacation, they get caught up in the moment and rape a sorcerer's sister, which leads to her death. When they return home to Hong Kong, they discover that the sorcerer has cursed them. The Eternal Evil of Asia, directed by Man Kei-chin, lures viewers in, starting with its title. It begins on a dark note filled with black magic and gruesome imagery, setting the dark and dubious tone for the rest of the story. The movie is a cult classic and one of the best films of the Hong Kong horror genre, showcasing gore, dubious sex, and to top it off, a wacky, twisted sense of humor. It is important to note that this film isn't a conventional one with a meaningful or coherent plot. Nevertheless, it is self-aware and contains intriguing things such as outlandish sorcery. Man Kei-chin is known to make films that move at a fast pace. He crafts his scenes with action, gore, nudity, and most notably over-the-top special effects. In Eternal Evil, he builds up the atmosphere with sufficient tension and gives it an appropriate, eerie, lingering vibe. This, along with its fast pace, doesn't let viewers stop and contemplate its trashy demeanor. Hex, 1980. A man believes that he is responsible for the murder of his wife. Out of guilt and fear, he begins seeing her in the form of a vengeance-seeking ghost. Kui Chi Hung's Hex was the first film to be released from 88 Asia, a collection reputed for its horror and exploitation. It is an incredible movie containing clear visuals and an ambient vibe. Moreover, none of the scenes in the film have been exaggerated to look overtly cheesy. It features essential information presented by renowned Hong Kong film historian Bay Logan. If one were to consider an Asian-style horror flick combined with Shaw Brothers' charm, Hex would not disappoint them, as it is a perfect blend of horror, comedy, and drama. It is evident that the filmmakers have paid great attention to detail in Hex's aesthetic and used high levels of creativity in bringing out its terror to the big screen.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Hey!